Hey everybody, it's Bruno on MB, where it can't all be serious. I got Jim Kinnear for episode 2, where Jim shares, how he helped move the dial, not only in the energy industry across Canada, but also, being a great entrepreneur. So stay tuned.
That's right. What's up, you sucker? What's up, you sucker? What you looking at?
Hey everybody, it's Bruno on MB, where it can't all be serious. Episode 2 with Mr. Jim Kinnear. Jim, thanks for having the courage to come back for episode 2. This segment was my idea. I'm going to take full credit for that. We're going to, forgive Jim because I'm asking these questions, but in all fairness, I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of highlight on how you, and when I say people like you, like your peers, have really moved the dial in the last, 25 years, 30 years in the energy industry.
Yep.
And why I'm asking that question, why it's near and dear, is that the only thing you kind of hear in the mainstream media for a long period of time is when oil and gas is too expensive or it pollutes the air and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we do take it for granted that we go to the gas station or we fuel our houses with all this stuff. But behind all that are people like you that put it together. That's not easy. How did you get started?
Bruno, I moved here from Montreal in 1980. I moved out to Calgary to learn about the energy, the oil and gas or energy business. And so I took a little office downtown in a business center and just got started by starting. So what happened was, we started off by buying some small interests in producing natural gas and oil properties, and we just grew it from there. So back in the when I moved here, we started off dealing with a group of Canadian pension funds, trusteed pension plans, and that's what we called it, Pengrowth. We started Pengrowth in '82, 2 years after I arrived. And what we did is approached a group of Canadian businesses, trustees, pension plans, and offered them the opportunity of participating, make some direct investments in the oil and gas business to buy some assets, if you would, rather than shares. These are assets producing reserves. And we got started in that business in '85, and '87 we made some more investments in that industry. And then '88 we started the public vehicle, we call it Pengrowth Gas Income Fund, and we raised $12.5 million. And that was at an interesting time because after that the price of natural gas went down, sadly, but we were up and running. And we continued to build that business, and we eventually grew it to a $4 billion enterprise. Plus, we paid out $3.5 billion to our stakeholders. So it was a growth business for us, and we basically bought proven producing reserves. And so that was the history of Pengrowth.
Well, I got to ask you this question because we promised we'd be brutally honest about this. But when you first came out here, good old boy from Montreal, spent some time in Toronto. I bet your entourage wasn't really thick, was it?
Not really. I didn't know a lot of people here. I kind of, what happened, interesting story. When I left Montreal, I didn't have a job here. So I put all my worldly possessions, my assets, in a truck. It was a Ryder truck rental. And my brother and I drove the truck to Calgary. And I rented for a while, rented a house for a while. And we opened up the office downtown. So you're absolutely right, didn't know a lot of people here. But You know, I had the opportunity before I moved out here to travel quite a bit across the country, visiting pension plans and other institutional investors. And I really enjoyed the spirit, the enthusiasm, and here in Calgary. So I thought, geez, that'd be a good place to live. And you got to admit, Calgary is different. It's got the entrepreneurial spirit like no other city in Canada has. No other city, maybe North America, maybe around the world.
Yeah, you don't see this, and you probably travel a little bit more than I have. I bring that up because there's a saying in sports that says when you're winning, you don't need any friends, and when you're losing, you have no friends. And so I'm not saying you had no friends, but coming out here, we're talking 1980, right? You came out here 80, 81, something like that.
1980.
And the political climate was incredibly different. The price of oil, we just come out of an energy crisis. And you graduated, you had a finance company, right? And here's some of us crazy central Canadians coming out here at the worst time possible. And interest rates, what were the interest rates back then?
Well, you're absolutely right, Bruno. It was a difficult time. I remember my brother and I bought a rental property, South Calgary, and I think the mortgage rates were about 20%. Anyway, it was it was kind of an exciting time. And then we got out here, and then that fall of 1980, they had some people came out from Ottawa, and they introduced a new program here in Canada. Sounded pretty exciting. They called it the National Energy Program.
Oh yeah, that was a hell of a program, right?
Yeah, that sounded good.
It looked good on print.
Yeah, exactly, right. So that happened. And then 81, 82, price of oil went down. I mean, you could have shot a cannon down the streets of Calgary. There's nobody around. It was
But you stuck it out.
Rather exciting time, right?
But you stuck it out.
And then by the mid-'80s, we were just starting to recover. The industry was just starting to recover. And then the end of 85, price of oil went from mid-20s to 10 by April 1st, 1996. So 1986. So the bottom line is, we're in a cyclical business.
Right.
I'm not sure you ever get the cycles right, but remember those bumper stickers? Please, Lord, let there be another oil boom. And I promise not to.
Well, and I promise won't to spend it away. But
That's right.
here's something like we take a lot of these things for granted. We were talking about this in the first episode. I love these conversations because you're not one of these people that came out here and didn't make it happen. You're responsible for a big portion of what Calgary looks like today, right? You were one of the pioneers here.
We helped.
Well, for sure. I mean, not just. I mean, Pengrowth, right? How many people did you employ? How many people moved here for oil and gas jobs through the aspirations of working for your company or your competitors?
That's right.
I just don't. You can't put that in words. It was transformational.
Actually, we're at the top of the market. At our peak, we had about 600 people working at Pengrowth.
So that's just directly for you.
Yeah.
And indirectly, in your partnerships and joint ventures, so many people.
Service companies,
right? And you're. All I'm saying is, I'm not just kind of patting you on the back. I'm saying once you really start thinking about it, you've transformed so many lives and dreams. Like people come from abroad thinking, hey, I want to work in oil and gas in Alberta, in Calgary, not just there, but in one of your companies. And that takes a lot of courage. But I want to go back during those times a little bit to tell people this was not simple. White knuckle periods. You mentioned 20% interest, and then you went public. Tell us about, I don't know, the top two white knuckling moments you're saying, I don't think I'm going to make it through this one.
Well, I never felt that way. And the reason is, Bruno, I worked for, companies like when I was in Montreal and in the securities business and otherwise. And when I came out here, I said, I can't really, can't really work for somebody else. I got to set up my own. And even when things were tough, I had to say to myself, we got to get through this. We got to figure out how to get through, because it just didn't work any other way. So they were tough times. I'll give you an example. We went public with our stock in 1988 at $10, right? Within 2 or 3 years, the stock had dropped to $5. I said, well, talk about white knuckle experience. And anyway, I said, well, that's not very good. So what are we going to do about this? So what we did, we were in natural gas. We had an interest in Dunvegan gas unit, 2.65% interest in Dunvegan gas unit. So anyway, we noodled on this, and we said, got an idea. We're going to buy an oil property. So we bought an interest in what we call a Nipissing-Gilwood unit. It was an Amoco-operated unit. And so now we're diversified. Oh, we had both oil and gas. Right? So anyway, that was the beginning of the turnaround. We eventually got the stock back to $10 and then went on from there. I think at the top we were $25 or $30. Even when I left, it was still about $10. But we had paid out about $25 or $30 to our stockholders over the period of time, over that 20 years. So they did quite well. Thank you very much. And so anyway, it was a period of cyclicality in the markets, but we did over $50 million. Sorry, over 50 transactions during that period of time, totaling about $5 billion of assets we acquired.
That's crazy. I mean, think about it back then, and they were all forward moving. I mean, there was no template for this.
No
It was
template.
like you had to create those opportunities because they didn't exist. You had to really think, and speculation's a big part of this, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. We did create the opportunities, and we'd go to a lot of the assets we acquired over the years were relatively high quality assets, long life reserves, and so on. And many of them we acquired from some of the majors and super majors. Those were good, because what would happen is the larger companies, the majors, were selling off their non-core interests. So we put our hand up, so we're in line, and we bought a number of these, and it worked out to our favor over many years. And so we dealt with people like ExxonMobil and Shell and BP, people like that were the people we would deal with, and mainly. And it was it was a good business for many years. So what we do is that we'd acquire these assets, draw down our line of credit, and then we go to our investment dealers, led by RBC, and they would prepare an offering for us, and we'd offer some shares and raise the equity capital. That was an ongoing business, and it worked out very well for us over a period of, I was a chair and CEO for 20 years.
You know, what really made you different in this this whole journey, amazing journey, is that you strike me as a finance first, resource second person, but you're known as for your oil and gas. And I think that's what's discounted a little bit in conversations, that you're known for oil and gas, but you really put finance ahead of just spending money. And you always mention this, a few times that we've met and spoken, you always celebrate what you did for the investors.
Yes.
And I noticed that. So what made you different than the regular, I guess, oil and gas people? Not saying they're bad, I'm just saying, what made you different, you think?
Well, my background, as you know, I'm a financial analyst. I'm what they call a CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. So my background is financial. And, Bruno, the way I look at it, if the math works, the deal works.
Right.
And so I look at it from a financial point of view. But you're absolutely right. What do you find about the energy business? And I'm not being critical, but you find about the oil and gas business, you got some really good people in geology and engineering and land and all the technical aspects of the oil and gas business. But then you get to the finance area, and they're not particularly strong in the finance area. And you know what finance is for a typical small, medium-sized oil and gas company?
Mm-hmm.
You stick a guy over in the corner and just keep the books.
Right.
That's finance. And again, I'm not being critical, but that's what my experience has been in the industry, and where the industry could really use more of, if you would, is more financial. I don't know if you call it expertise, and more financial management, if you would, in the business. And so that's where I added some value, if you would.
And the other thing I want to highlight here in this episode is maybe celebrate is that you were quick to say you weren't the first one, but you're the first person I knew that did the old income trust, which I thought was brilliant. And don't really want to go down the political side, but what made you think about that, or at least execute that? Because you mentioned you weren't one of the first. You were one of the first, but
Yeah, the first originally was Marcel Tremblay, my good friend from Montreal, who I knew actually in Montreal days before I moved out here. He was with Royal Trust Energy and started Enerplus and so on. And he was really one of the founders of that business. I just thought it was a good business model because it's a very disciplined business model. So what you got is from your assets, you got cash flow. Then you have to decide how much of the cash flow you're going to reinvest in your properties or buy some property, whatever the reinvestment is, or how much you want to pay out to your stockholders. It's a very disciplined financial model, and that's why I liked it. And we used to debate on this every quarter, every time we had to make a distribution, or in fact, on end, we were making monthly distributions. I think the first to introduce monthly distributions for energy trusts. But, you had to decide where you're going to allocate your cash flow or your capital. And it was, as I said earlier, a very disciplined financial model. That's one of the reasons we liked it.
well, here's something else is that you started off, with all due respect, as a small operator, a small owner, operator, whatever like of your businesses, right? And I mean, you grew to the point where you were one of the big boys. And it's okay if you say yes or no, but you had to play at that level. When did you recognize, like, I'm not small potatoes anymore? And then I have a follow-up question. Like, at what point did you realize that you're like, I'm no longer, and there's nothing wrong with the small operators, but when did you realize, say, I got to get more lawyers and more, because that's kind of what the game is, right?
Well, really, one of the major turning points for us to become a bit of a larger player was in '97 when we acquired the Judy Creek Swan Hills assets for Imperial Oil. And that was really a turning point for us because then we became a serious operator and of significant size. And it really was a bit of a turning point for us because, but in addition to that, we had brought in some very highly qualified technical people and otherwise, and operating people who came and joined the group, and it really it turned the corner for us. Not that we were up until that time, we were a good size, mainly non-operated business in the energy sector. But when we acquired the Imperial Oil assets from back in '97, that was a real turning point for us. That was a big deal. That was before the right of first refusal. ROFR was excised. That was $600 million at that time.
It's a lot of money.
That was a large deal. At the end of the day, part of the ROFR got excised. It was still $500 million, which we had to finance, and we successfully did through an offering through RBC Dominion Securities.
Here's something. You're over the line, right? And hopefully forever. You're over that threshold of saying, "Uh-oh," and "Wow, I'm dealing with the big boys and big girls, right? And big companies." A and B. What did you like most about being in that group?
Well, I'm not sure it made a lot of difference in the way we operated. We were still.
No, but you personally, like now you're going to the events these people are going to. You're being invited. You're being called by the bigger investors. And what did you like most about being on the other side of the big energy people?
I'm not sure it really made a lot of difference in my lifestyle, or we say might have got invited to a few things. Yeah, that's fine, but we never really took that much to heart. We just did our business. We just went about our business and tried to make some cash flow or distributions for our stakeholders.
There's a follow-up. I got to set you up, right? So the setup is, what did you like least about dealing at that level and meeting some people that, we read about in the news. Back in the day, we used to read about it. Now you're sitting across them, and you're expected to transact or talk to them. I'm sure there's some funny characters, interesting characters that didn't share your values. What did you like least about navigating at that level?
Well, I'm not sure that, again, going back to my earlier comments, I'm not sure it really had much impact on us one way or the other. We had stuff to do and our knitting to look after, and which we did. And I'm not sure, the fact that we're in a different league, I'm not sure really affected us all that much.
Oh, that's awesome. We're gonna have one more episode.
Okay.
I love talking about this because it really is part of the heritage of this this province and this city and the energy industry. You've done a great job through there, as some of your colleagues have, and we'll be back for one more. And thanks again, Jim.
You're welcome, and thank you, Bruno. I enjoyed it.
See you guys next time.